I see my fitness as the bedrock for my everyday life. Sometimes I feel like I've tethered too much of myself to it. With every change that comes, I feel the ripples in other parts of my life. Looking back at how I've come to grow alongside my fitness, I can really see how my creativity and confidence were reborn. My journey with this experience so far has led me down to this point where I want to share how I feel these two worlds collide. It all started when I was depressed as hell in my college dorm room, and I hadn't realized that I wasn't living a life that I enjoyed. I hadn't lived a life that I created for myself. I withdrew from as much as I could. I failed the entire semester and secluded myself. The only thing I found solace in was going to the gym. Day by day, I grew and I struggled. In the moment, I didn't know if anything I was doing was worth it. I was just living, doing my best to put up a face, but never really caring. I got some shitty $5 notebook to start tracking my workouts, and that is the moment where I can definitively say a new me was born. Unsure of the circumstances to come, I was just taking the first step to be more authentic. Tracking my workouts and developing myself became a passion, and I evolved and developed with it. This led me to creating spreadsheets and mastering what it looks like to create my own workout routine and stay consistent. But it also let me express myself in a really fun and unique way that I didn't even notice yet. As I kept going and did more to diversify what I did, I came to use all this data to make graphs and print them and make something tangible with it. And it was beautiful. And then I tore my labrum. This changed my entire perspective on life and shifted how I came to view my fitness. It was no longer about the vanity and how I looked, but about the longevity that came from it. I really had to toil with the idea of abandoning something I loved and cared about, and that detachment led me to a new kind of peace that I was able to grow from. I came to reflect and reflect and reflect and see lessons provided by my everyday life, especially in my fitness. With how my creativity had come to blossom, I started to see the through line between my physical expression and my artistic expression. The three lessons that I've come to learn so far are the patience of consistency, the struggle to love and push yourself, and detachment from creation. I didn't see how my relationship with patience was particularly tethered to consistency for the longest time, and it took a lot of self-reflection to get there. And from my experience, there are two factors that really embolden you to find your right rhythm and remaining consistent, and that is in frequency and variability. Consistency and frequency are synonyms in this case, and the key to it is just finding your rhythm, like taking really deep breaths. Treat your time of activity and rest as two sides of a whole, and it becomes a lot easier to find your rhythm to almost anything, in my opinion. When I first started going to the gym, I started working out 3 days on with 4 days off, and then upped it to 4 days of activity with 3 days off when I felt I grew comfortable with the routine. At this stage, I was still figuring out everything, and I would just add random workouts to whatever I was doing till the end of the year, as long as I enjoyed it. This first routine was something really fun and spurred my addiction for data and spreadsheets. But once I was forced on break with my surgery, that shifted my entire perspective on how I should be conducting my strength. I remember I was
So excited to get back into the gym. The day I was cleared, I went straight back to going 5 times a week, which I didn't even do before, but I just wanted to go back to the gym. I was so excited. It was right after my birthday. So everything just felt like it had aligned for me to just hit the ground running, right? But I missed one thing. It wasn't sustainable. I only could hold this up for a week. My body wasn't ready yet. But this gave me the perfect opportunity to restart with a new perspective that was just starting to be formed.
But honestly, consistency was easy for me. I had that locked down since before surgery, and I found it pretty simple to find a new rhythm for something and remain consistent with it. The hard part was really about learning to love myself again, to love my body again. Um, and even then, I had a negative mindset and view of my body since middle school and maybe even before then. And I started going to the gym to try and ameliorate that in some facet. But after I had the surgery, I just felt really disconnected from myself. And before I knew it, every day just became a battle of seeing if I was good enough, if I deserved to feel happy in my own body.
Growing up, I loved art. I would always do my best to create wherever, whenever I could. It was a piece of me that just made sense. Expression and living for nothing but the sake of it. I used to draw on every assignment that I would get. At the end of the period, you could be sure that my papers were covered in doodles of some sort. But slowly, this flame of creativity was slowly phased out of me. Not because I wanted it to, but because I was pressured to believe that to progress in life, I had to sacrifice this side of me for what I was told success was. After surgery, a new sense of what I wanted was set for me. To get back to what I was, chasing my shadow. In this stage, I looked at my body as the final piece of what all my work culminated to. Not just going to the gym alone, but my diet and other means of self-care to heal and strengthen myself. I had to fully reconcile with the fact that my body is nothing but a result of the repeated effort I acted upon, and I had to wait. Sit there with an image that I hated and was disgusted at, looking back at me in the mirror.
You know, every day I would go into the gym and it was like I was discovering a new part of me that felt more like shit than it was before. And I was really starting to question, what was the point of this? I was sitting here collecting data and making art of something that I really enjoyed, and I did enjoy it, but I just felt terrible. I was questioning, why was I even bothering with this anymore? I didn't know what it took to be satisfied with myself, and I just felt stuck. I was always questioning myself, always questioning if anything I was doing was good enough, and I just had to face it.
How long would it take? Every day only feels longer. Life is getting distracting and nothing makes me as happy anymore. I became obsessed with trying to catch the image of what I was before surgery and disconnected myself from my body. I had to face myself and settle in. I meditated a lot during this time. I felt it was my only reprieve. Everyday life felt like it was becoming too noisy. Going to the gym was the only place where I felt like I could let my mind breathe.
Meditating and going to the gym honestly kind of broke me, and I am still kind of broken. I fell in love with silence. I fell in love with the stillness that my mind could get into while I was working out and outside of working out as well. it offered such deep amounts of self-reflection for me that I slowly undid all the mental pains that came to express itself unknowingly. You know, uh, when I'm thinking about my body and the hardships that I've gone through and the lack of love that I was able to give to it, it was through this silence and in this meditation where I was able to reach the root of the issue. I didn't know how to appease myself. I didn't know how to be satisfied with myself. And it's hard to see.
It was never easy. Every experience had its own timeline of healing, but my relationship with fitness was one that went far deeper than I ever expected. It wasn't solely my middle school experience where my bodily insecurities were born, but also as a child through innocuous interactions with some of my own family. A hurt that took a lot of time and recognition and forgiveness to move past. Not the type of forgiveness that says anyone can come back into my life and treat me in these ways again, but one of accepting that this happened and I can move on and grow. It was hurtful to my past self to not exist in my full authenticity, but the acknowledgement of that lets me move on in a really cool way. It's like I get to stick up for a past me. When I was in the gym with a complete reset of my progress, it was like I gave myself a second chance to do everything again. My road of opportunity increased. I wanted to achieve what I had already done and also fully accept the new route of growth that presented itself before me. I just had to wait to see the results. So I went to the gym day by day, week by week, following through with what I set up for myself. Detached from my body, I became focused with the numbers of my workouts. Following the numbers, I became enamored with data and making something. It's where I learned to make the art of my workouts extend beyond just the physicality of it all.
Every spreadsheet became a blank canvas, and my expression just became another brushstroke on it. Every time I went to the gym, it added more layers to the art, and all I needed to do was stay consistent, and it was beautiful. Even though the pieces were slowly coming together to blossom into a new person, I was still really blind. I didn't like my body. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror, and I hated that. I really wished I could have started from a blank slate. I wanted to see and appreciate the progress that I was making, but not see where I had come from.
Seeing my scars felt like a reminder of failure. My new mindset was really pushing me to take things slow and care for myself in a deeper way. A new type of self-care was burrowing out of me, and I needed to stay aware. I got really into stretching and trying to maximize my mobility and flexibility, and I even started going to some yoga classes during this time. This was something super serious to me. It reflected in my workouts too. I started to be more attentive to how I started out each day and take things just a little bit slower. The hoops I came to jump through in the name of self-care all came to pay off in time. Going through surgery really made me feel so disconnected from my body compared to what it once was that I felt taking this time to really feel all of myself out was the only way to get me back on the right track.
But my meditations with trying to connect deeper with my body came with such a deep amount of self-reflection about my identity, my values, my trauma for myself and intergenerationally, that the peace that came with it would never leave. And it wasn't the kind of thing where it just is like always there, like just amorphous in the background, you tap into it or whatever. No, but it's something that you work for. It's something that can only be achieved by facing yourself, knowing that you had to work for this, knowing that you had to look at the failure that came before you and say, I will go forward in spite of that.
In this period is when I started journaling and letting more of my mind out for me to witness. Doing this while starting anew in the gym felt like I was going back through my mind and picking myself up from all of my perceived mishaps. Day by day, reflection after reflection, it became so much clearer. I was the person that held me back from living how I wanted. It was really mundane in the moment. All that really pressed my mind was letting thoughts flow through me like a river. And I chased the same flow in my workouts, and I had to stop listening to music as that got too distracting too. And life felt like it was just getting too distracting. I didn't know what from though. And here was where my new challenge stood before me. Facing many different types of insecurities around my body and strength, I had nothing but my mind and body to face myself. Every day, I would step into the gym and I wanted to do my best to make sure I was going about it in a way that would let me heal to the fullest, but also push me just enough to keep growing. When I first hit my plateau, I didn't think much of it. I knew part of it was a mental barrier, but I also fully believed that that was just the most I could do at the time. I felt that when I would run into these periods of stagnation, it was just a part of the process and I just needed to wait and grow a little more. But it would come back again and again, and I just couldn't complete the standard I'd set for myself. I needed a change in perspective. Unconsciously, I set a mental barrier for myself.
I didn't think I worked hard enough to pass any of these plateaus. I wanted to look a certain way by the time I achieved my goals. And when I achieved them before I looked that way, I rejected it. I didn't do that on purpose, but I just didn't want to believe that I could do that looking like this. I didn't think I had what it took to follow through with anything. Follow through with the new strength that I was undertaking, follow through with the discipline that I was setting for myself, and follow through with the goals I was creating. I didn't look how I anticipated, and that saddened me. All I wanted for so long was my body to look a certain way so that I could feel happy about myself and others could smile when they looked at me, right? When I was young, I was laughed at for how I looked by some people that were very close to me. And that is where the seed was sown to want to change my appearance. And then to have the surgery and go forward and achieve the very goals that I set for myself before my body had ever looked how I wanted it to. It broke me. I didn't know how to handle that properly.
I didn't know how to appreciate and show love to the work I'd put in. I had months and months worth of progress visualized for me, but I was still struggling to accept the fact that I had grown. I needed another change. I was scared to my core, honestly, unsure if my body was ready to really move beyond the point where I'd hurt myself. So I put myself in a position where I would be forced to push myself, all in the name of care and self-love. To love myself is the hardest choice I've ever made in my life.
It's hard to love yourself and have standards for yourself when you don't know yourself. Throughout my entire journey with my fitness, the number one thing that I was coming to learn was boundaries, and it's not even just when I'm participating with other people, but it's boundaries for myself and within myself. How can I say I love myself and care for myself and then actively undermine the things that I want to pursue? That contradicts itself to its fullest. See, the hardest act of self-love that exists is to push yourself. To love yourself is to make sure that you grow and see a better tomorrow for yourself. If you care, you'll do it, no matter how it presents itself.
The entirety of both adequate rest and action for anything is where you can really see the totality of your self-care. This goes beyond just fitness, but for all parts of our life, where we choose to let something be active and let it rest. We let things come to have their own rhythm in our lives, and what is produced from it is beyond what we can see in the present moment.
Creating a life of love and care is a challenge. I have been talking to you guys about how my authenticity has been emphasized so much more with my fitness. But honestly, it is a challenge every single day, even as I record this right now. Things have never gotten easier. I have only gotten stronger.
As I went down this whole path, the idea that everything that I was doing was an art with my body as the final piece just made sense. I was the perfect canvas that is ever growing and changing by the brushstrokes that I took. Seeing my body like this shifted my mind and my outlook for life. I became detached to the everyday to an extent. I still would stay grounded and aware of myself and try my best to take care, but I didn't feel as attached as I once was. Knowing I was trying my best every day allowed me to be more attentive to how I participated in the moment of things. It came to a point where I knew to take care of myself, so I didn't need to pay as much attention to the full picture of things, but instead on the finer details, making sure each brushstroke went how I wanted it, and that every detail had time given to it so the full picture could be beautiful. This shift disconnected me from being able to appreciate myself in the same way, but on the other side of the spectrum, no longer was it that I was ignoring my own growth out of a refusal to see that I have grown out the shell I was once in, but it's that I didn't even want to see what my new self even looked like. Every step of growth I took with confidence. But even in times of doubt, I never thought I could ever fail like I once had, even if I lost everything. I was always excited to see how my body had grown, but I yearned for a deeper mind. The depths of my mind that I felt I had to face, coexist, and sprout from gave birth to a peace in me that let me move with a new confidence that was unshakable. I wear no headphones in the gym. I hear everything. The breathing, the weights, the lights, the fan, all of it. And in that, I find my place where my confidence comes forth. I find the silence that my doubt comes from, and I face it and live with it. The contradiction of doubt my mind says I can and cannot do, I choose to do it. To try something is to do it. Even if it doesn't come out how we envisioned, we all want the final piece at the start of the journey so we can say we are something. But with any art, our first brushstroke isn't the prettiest, so we have to keep going and refining until we create something that satisfies us.
It has taken me an incredibly long time to recognize that the effort that I put into something is what causes me to be satisfied with the final piece, far more than whatever perfect idea I had in my mind. You know, the story and emotion that we feel from an art piece is made in the creation of it, where the final piece that you get to see, whether it be a painting, a video, a movie, whatever, can only offer you a taste, a fragment of what was poured into it. For me, my fitness came to teach me about learning to love the process as opposed to the final product. And I think it's just really funny at the end of this to look back and think about all those phrases that I know a lot of us hear about the person that that just loves to do something will always go farther than someone that does it for the sake of it, you know? Or not that exactly, but you get what I mean. Loving the process of creation is what allows you to be satisfied with yourself. In all of your differences, no matter how it's come about, learning to love the process, learning to be patient, and learning to recognize that the final product is nothing but a culmination of your consistent effort will lead you to being so much more happy with yourself. Or that's how it's been for me, at least.
Removing myself from wanting to be the best at anything is where I became the happiest. To be me to the fullest is what taught me this. My whole journey with understanding the artistic presence in my fitness and how I've come to approach it with self-love and authenticity at the forefront really came to scream at me internally. I saw my life change before my eyes, and I saw the vision, and I needed to express myself and do something new.
Cultivating all of this discipline and mental clarity with a very swift change of my mind all comes to our final conclusion that you need to express yourself. It doesn't matter if it is through your fitness. We need to make art. It doesn't matter what the art is. I've come to recognize that everyday life is art, and our bodies are the first paintbrushes that we are gifted with the canvas of the world. You know, we're given a choice every day, and that is to either make the leap of faith in following our dreams, no matter how weird, different, and uncomfortable that may look, or continuing with being told how to live and being told how to express ourselves. And the viewer, whoever you are, might be sitting there thinking, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? And what I have to say to that is, look at the current state of the world. You know, I'm off script right now, and I don't care. I've been needing to talk about this for a minute. Look, When we look at AI and how it is churning out human creativity and spitting in the face of it for a fragment of satisfaction, for what? There is no story there. There's no expression there. All that it has to say for us is we are nothing but a resource to be utilized. Your expression, your life, the joy that you have to offer is nothing but another tool to be used for profit. And what sense does that make? We're gifted a life that we have something to do with, Like, I don't know who's going to see this, but I'm working on other projects at the time of this, and something that speaks to me is the vulnerability, right? There's a relatability in our everyday experience. And that's what I was talking about for this entire video, right? And in one of my other projects, I talk about how hopeless life is. And, I lack hope. I do. I lack a lot of hope for the future. And I struggle to see how can I have a life that I'll thrive in comfortably, like my future was taken from me before I was even a sperm cell. My safety was sold before I could even think. And I was left with nothing but anger, and even as a kid, I knew that this deep pit of despair that I felt inside of me wasn't because of simply how I was raised. It was something deeper. It was the fact that humanity lost itself. How am I supposed to sit here and look for a better tomorrow when the people that I'm supposed to look up to don't even know how to control themselves? I've had a hard life, but I don't let that destroy what I want to make for myself. I'm a loving and caring individual, and I want to see those around me survive and thrive as well. And it is up to the individual how they will retain their everyday power so that they can survive and thrive with those around them. This video was about fitness, right? Through my fitness is where I first learned how to survive. I rebuilt myself through a mental prison. My living circumstances weren't good at the time as well. But I kept going and I never stopped. I allowed the creative spark that came with my fitness to carry me into something else. I didn't know where it would take me, and I'm proud of where I've come, and I'm proud to even imagine where I'll go. The hope that I've cultivated for myself now isn't born from any of the societal pressings that have been attempted to be pushed onto me. The hope that I have now comes from the fact that I can create a better life for myself. I can create a better life for others, and I can have an impact on the world. I just have to keep going.